The morning air on Kepler 438b tasted different from Earth air. 8-year-old Mira knew this because her mother always told her so. The colony of New Haven sat like a small metal flower in the middle of endless purple grass that swayed in the alien wind. Beyond the grass stood the dark forest where nobody was supposed to go alone. Mira walked along the colony's edge with her best friend trailing behind her. Most kids had dogs or cats as pets. Mira had Badger. The honey badger was about the size of a small dog but built like a furry tank. His black and white fur gleamed in the strange orange sunlight of the alien world. Her parents brought him from Earth for their research, but Badger had chosen Mira as his human. The colony's safety fence hummed with electricity, keeping out the dangerous things that lived in the purple wilderness. Through the metal bars, Mira could see deep into the forest where the trees grew so thick that sunlight barely touched the ground. Her parents worked as scientists, studying how Earth animals adapted to new worlds. They always warned her about staying close to home. "Come on, Badger," she called as the honey badger stopped to investigate something in the grass. He looked up at her with his small dark eyes and made a soft, huffing sound. Badger never seemed scared of anything. Not the loud colony ships that landed every few weeks. Not the strange sounds from the forest at night. Not even the big security robots that patrolled the fence. In the forest, something else was watching. The creature had been studying the human settlement for many days now. It moved through the trees without making a sound, its 6 legs carrying it across the forest floor like a deadly shadow. The Nethrix stood nearly 10 feet tall when it raised itself to full height. Its scales changed colors to match whatever it stood near, making it almost invisible. The alien predator had hunted on dozens of worlds. It collected the most interesting prey from each planet, keeping them in special places deep underground. Humans were new to this world, and the Nethrix found them fascinating. They were so small and soft compared to most creatures, yet they built metal homes and brought strange animals with them. The Nethrix watched the small human female walk near the fence every day. She always brought the small black and white creature with her. The predator's advanced mind could sense emotions and thoughts from most prey. Fear made meat taste better. But these humans were different. Their minds were harder to read, more complex than other species it had hunted. Through the fence, Mira pointed at something in the forest. "Look, Badger, I think I saw something move over there." The honey badger looked where she pointed but showed no sign of fear. His tail twitched slightly, which usually meant he was interested in something. The Nethrix studied them both. The small human would make an excellent addition to its collection, but the strange creature with her puzzled it. The predator had never seen anything like a honey badger before. It looked harmless enough, but something about the way it moved suggested hidden strength. Days passed as the Nethrix planned its hunt. It learned the girl's routine, watching from different hiding spots in the forest. She came to the fence every morning after the colony's food time. She stayed for about 1 hour, sometimes talking to the small creature, sometimes just sitting in the purple grass. The Nethrix noticed that the colony's adult humans rarely came to this part of the fence. On hunting day, the alien predator moved into position before dawn. It chose a spot where the fence curved, creating a blind corner where the security cameras couldn't see. The Nethrix pressed itself against a large tree, its scales shifting to match the purple bark perfectly. Even its 6 legs seemed to disappear against the forest floor. When Mira arrived for her morning walk, she seemed more excited than usual. "Today feels different, Badger," she said, reaching down to pet the honey badger's broad head. "Maybe we'll see some of those flying creatures Mom told us about." Badger sniffed the air and made a low rumbling sound. His small ears twitched as he listened to something Mira couldn't hear. The honey badger had survived millions of years of evolution by being aware of danger. Something in the forest was watching them. The Nethrix waited until the girl sat down in her usual spot. It could see her clearly through the fence, but she couldn't see it. The predator's telepathic abilities reached out carefully, testing the edges of her mind. Human thoughts were strange and scattered, full of memories and dreams mixed together. Slowly, the Nethrix began to project images into Mira's mind. Not fear yet, just curiosity. A flash of movement in the trees. A glimpse of something beautiful and mysterious. The alien was skilled at making prey want to investigate, to come closer to. Danger, Mira stood up suddenly. Did you see that, Badger? She moved closer to the fence, her small hands wrapping around the metal bars. There's something in there. Something amazing. Badger followed but stayed alert. The honey badger's instincts warned him that something was very wrong. He moved between Mira and the fence, his body tense and ready. A low growl rumbled in his throat. The Nethrix increased its mental pressure, filling Mira's mind with images of wonderful discoveries waiting just beyond the fence. The girl's eyes grew wide with curiosity. She looked for the gate that maintenance workers used to enter the forest. It was only 50 meters away. Just for a minute, Mira whispered to herself. Just to see what's in there. She walked toward the maintenance gate, her mind clouded by the alien's influence. Badger followed, making concerned, huffing sounds. The honey badger could sense danger even if he couldn't see it clearly. He stayed close to Mira, ready to protect her from whatever threat his instincts detected. The Nethrix smiled with its terrible mouth full of razor teeth. The hunt was beginning exactly as planned. Soon it would have a new prize for its underground collection, and the strange small creature would be just another obstacle to remove. The alien predator had no idea it was about to meet Earth's most fearless animal. Darkness swallowed Mira like a hungry mouth. Her head felt heavy and strange, as if she had been sleeping for days instead of minutes. Cold stone pressed against her back, and the air smelled wrong. Not like the clean colony air, or even the forest air. This smelled old and sour, like something had been rotting for a very long time. She tried to move but found her arms and legs wrapped in something that felt alive. The material pulsed with a soft blue light and tightened whenever she struggled. Panic rose in her chest as memory came flooding back. The forest. The beautiful thing she had seen through the trees. Following it deeper and deeper until everything went black. You are awake, small one. The voice came from inside her head, not through her ears. It felt cold and sharp like broken glass. Do not fear. Your death will have meaning. Mira's eyes adjusted to the dim light and she saw where she was. The cavern stretched far beyond what she could see, carved from living rock. Strange crystals grew from the ceiling, casting everything in an eerie blue glow. But what made her scream were the things hanging from the walls. Bones, skulls, pieces of creatures she had never seen before. All arranged like trophies. Some were huge, bigger than the colony's transport vehicles. Others were small and delicate. All of them were dead, preserved in some alien way that kept them from rotting. My collection, the voice in her head continued. Each one was the finest, specimen from its world. You will join them soon. From the shadows stepped the most terrifying thing Mira had ever seen. The Nethrix moved on 6 legs like a giant insect, but its body was more like a lizard's. Its scales shifted colors constantly, showing her flashes of the purple forest, then the blue cave walls, then colors that hurt her eyes to look at. When it stood to full height, its head nearly touched the cave ceiling. I have hunted for 300 of your years, the creature said, its mental voice growing stronger. I have taken the best from 47 worlds. You humans are new to me, but already I find you fascinating. The alien moved closer, and Mira could see its face clearly. It had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, each one a different color. Its mouth was too wide and filled with teeth like black needles. When it breathed, the air around it seemed to shimmer. Where is Badger? Mira managed to whisper. Her voice echoed strangely in the vast cave. The Nethrix tilted its head, a gesture that looked wrong on such a creature. The small animal? It tried to follow us but fell behind. Do not worry about it. Soon you will have no concerns at all. But Mira was wrong about Badger falling behind. Far above in the forest, the honey badger pressed his nose to the ground where Mira's scent disappeared into a crack between 2 large rocks. The opening was barely wide enough for a child, hidden behind a curtain of hanging vines. Badger had tracked wounded animals across the African savanna before coming to this alien world. He knew how to follow a trail even when it seemed to vanish. His claws dug into the soft earth around the crack, making the opening wider. Without hesitation, he squeezed through and began his descent into darkness. In the trophy chamber, the Nethrix began its ritual. It moved around Mira in a slow circle, its four eyes never leaving her face. Fear improves the taste, it explained in its terrible mental voice. The more terror a creature feels before death, the sweeter its flesh becomes. The alien reached out with one clawed hand and touched Mira's forehead. Immediately, her mind filled with images of all the creatures that had died in this place. She saw their last moments, their fear and pain. She saw herself hanging on the wall with the other trophies, her eyes empty and staring. "Please," she begged. "I want to go home." "Home is a memory now," the Nethrix replied. "You exist only to feed me." But even as terror filled her mind, Mira remembered something her mother had taught her about earth animals. When faced with a predator, some creatures ran. Others hid. But a few special ones fought back, no matter how big their enemy was. She thought about Badger, how he never backed down from anything, not even the massive security robots. Deep in the tunnel system, Badger encountered his first obstacle. The passage split into 3 different paths, each one leading deeper into the alien's lair. The honey badger paused, testing the air with his sensitive nose. One tunnel smelled of death and old bones. Another carried the scent of strange chemicals. The third held just a trace of Mira's scent mixed with fear. He chose the third path without hesitation. The tunnel sloped downward, carved smooth by whatever had lived here long before the Nethrix arrived. Badger's claws clicked on the stone as he moved deeper underground. His small eyes adapted quickly to the darkness, and his other senses grew sharper to compensate. Something moved in the shadows ahead. Badger stopped, his body going perfectly, still. A creature emerged from a side passage, something like a cross between a spider and a snake. It had too many legs and eyes that glowed green in the dark. The thing hissed at him, blocking his path. Back in the trophy chamber, the Nethrix was growing impatient. Its prey wasn't producing enough fear. The girl kept thinking about something else instead of focusing on her approaching death. The alien increased its mental pressure, flooding Mira's mind with images of pain and terror. "Stop thinking about other things," it commanded. "Focus on me. Fear me." But Mira couldn't stop thinking about Badger. She remembered watching nature, documentaries with her parents, learning about honey badgers, how they fought off lions, how they climbed trees to raid beehives, ignoring thousands of stings, how they never, ever gave up. The Nethrix felt something it had never experienced before in 3 centuries of hunting. Doubt. This small human's mind kept slipping away from its control, returning to thoughts of the strange black and white creature. The predator decided to finish the ritual quickly and be done with it. In the tunnel, Badger faced the guardian creature. The alien thing was twice his size, with fangs dripping some kind of acid. It struck at him like lightning, but Badger was already moving. He rolled under the attack and came up behind the creature, his powerful jaws clamping down on what might have been its neck. The guardian shrieked and tried to shake him off, but honey badger's skin was too loose and tough. Badger hung on and bit deeper, his teeth finding something vital. The creature collapsed, twitching once before going still. Badger released his grip and continued down the tunnel. He could smell Mira more clearly now, mixed with the scent of the thing that had taken her. The honey badger's mind was simple and direct. Something had hurt his human. That something was going to die. The tunnel system stretched deeper than any cave on Earth. Badger moved through passages carved by forces he couldn't understand, following Mira's scent like a black and white missile with teeth. Each step took him further from the surface world, and closer to something that had never encountered a honey badger before. The first real test came when the passage opened into a circular chamber filled with floating spores. The tiny particles glowed like stars drifting in the still air. They looked beautiful and harmless, but when Badger inhaled them, his nose burned and his vision blurred. Most animals would have turned back. Most animals weren't honey badgers. Badger, had built up immunity to countless toxins during his evolution on Earth. Snake venom that could kill an elephant barely slowed him down. Bee stings that would send other animals running just made him angry. These alien spores were strong, but they weren't strong enough. He pushed through the chamber, his breathing steady despite the burning in his lungs. The spores clung to his thick fur, but his skin was too tough for them to penetrate. By the time he reached the far side, his body was already processing the alien toxins and rendering them harmless. Behind him, the spores began to dim as his passage stirred them into random patterns. The Nethrix had designed this trap to stop large predators from reaching its lair. It had never considered that something small and determined might simply endure what couldn't be avoided. The next chamber contained different dangers. Strange. Plants grew from cracks in the stone walls, their leaves sharp as razors and their roots extending across the floor like tripwires. The air here felt thick and wrong, as if gravity worked differently. Badger felt his body growing heavier with each step. But honey badgers had evolved to dig through the hardest earth, to fight in confined spaces where other animals would panic. The increased gravity just made his claws grip the stone floor better. When the razor plants lashed out at him, he was already moving in the rolling, twisting pattern that had kept his species alive for millions of years. One plant managed to slice across his shoulder, drawing a thin line of blood. Badger turned on it instantly, his jaws crushing the alien vegetation. The plant tried to fight back, wrapping around his neck with vine-like extensions, but his loose skin let him twist, free. Within seconds, the plant was shredded and dying. Far below, the Nethrix paused in its ritual. Something was destroying its guardians. The alien predator had set these traps centuries ago, collecting dangerous species from other worlds to protect its lair. Nothing had ever made it past the first few chambers. Impossible, it whispered in its mental voice. What kind of creature could survive my defenses? Mira felt a tiny spark of hope. Badger, she whispered. You came for me. The Nethrix struck her across the face with one scaled hand. Your animal is dead. Accept your fate. But even as it spoke, the alien felt doubt creeping into its ancient mind. Its telepathic senses reached upward through the tunnel system, trying to locate the intruder. What it found confused and disturbed it. The creature moving through its lair felt no fear. None at all. Instead, it radiated something the Nethrix had rarely encountered in 3 centuries of hunting. Pure determination. Badger reached the chamber of the crystal spiders. These creatures were the Nethrix's most dangerous guardians, imported from a world where they were apex predators. Each one was the size of a dinner plate, with legs like steel cables and mandibles that could cut through metal. They moved in perfect coordination like a single organism with dozens of bodies. They descended from their crystal webs as soon as Badger entered their domain. The honey badger found himself surrounded by clicking, chittering death. The spiders attacked from all directions at once, trying to overwhelm him with their numbers. This was exactly the kind of fight honey badgers had been designed for. Badger rolled and twisted, his powerful jaws snapping at anything that came within range. His claws found purchase on the crystal walls, giving him the leverage to kick and bite with devastating effect. Every movement was efficient and deadly. The spiders tried to web him, shooting sticky strands from their spinnerets. But Badger's fur was too coarse for the webbing to stick properly. He tore through their traps like they were made of paper. When they tried to bite him with their poisonous fangs, his thick hide turned most of their attacks. One spider managed to sink its mandibles into his flank, injecting venom that would have killed most earth animals within seconds. Badger felt the burn of alien poison spreading through his bloodstream, but his metabolism was already breaking it down. He grabbed the spider with his teeth and shook it until its carapace cracked. The battle lasted only minutes, but when it was over, Badger stood alone among the broken bodies of the crystal spiders. He was bleeding from several wounds, and his fur was matted with alien blood, but he was alive and moving. The honey badger licked his wounds briefly, then continued, deeper into the lair. The Nethrix felt the last of its guardian creatures die. Impossible. The crystal spiders had never failed before. They had killed creatures 10 times larger than whatever was approaching. The alien predator's four eyes began to glow with rage and confusion. "What are you?" it demanded, its mental voice echoing through the cave system. In the trophy chamber, Mira smiled despite her terror. She knew that sound. Badger made it when he was really angry about something. It was a low rumble that started deep in his chest and built up like distant thunder. She had heard it when maintenance robots got too close to her, or when other animals challenged him for food. Now she heard it getting closer. The Nethrix heard it too, and for the first time in its long life, the alien predator felt something it had never experienced before. Not quite fear, but a recognition that it might have made a terrible mistake. It began to consider that this small Earth creature might be more dangerous than it appeared. Badger entered the final passage, the one that led directly to the trophy chamber. The walls here were smoother, carved with symbols that meant nothing to him. The air carried the sense of death and alien predator mixed with Mira's fear. His rumbling grew louder as he picked up speed. Behind him, the tunnel system lay in ruins. Guardian creatures lay dead or broken. Trap chambers stood empty and useless. For the first time in centuries, something had penetrated to the heart of the Nethrix's domain. Something small and black and white and absolutely unstoppable. The Nethrix could hear the creature approaching now. Its footsteps echoed off the stone walls, steady and relentless. The alien predator positioned itself between the tunnel entrance and its captive prey. It raised itself to full height, scales shifting to show its most intimidating patterns. But when Badger appeared in the chamber entrance, the Nethrix felt its confidence waver. This was no ordinary animal. This small Earth creature looked at the 10-foot-tall alien predator with the same expression it might give to an annoying insect. No fear, no hesitation, just cold evaluation and growing rage. Mira's heart soared when she saw her friend. "Badger!" The honey badger's small dark eyes found her, took in her situation, then fixed on the Nethrix with unmistakable intent. His rumbling grew into a snarl that echoed through the trophy chamber. Every instinct in his body was telling him the same thing. Something had hurt his human and that something needed to die. The trophy chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of alien technology keeping Mira trapped. Two predators faced each other across the stone floor, separated by millions of years of evolution and countless light years of space. The Nethrix towered over Badger like a scaled mountain, its four eyes glowing with confidence. The honey badger looked back without blinking, his compact body coiled like a spring. "So?" the Nethrix spoke into their minds, its mental voice dripping with amusement. "This is the creature that destroyed my guardians? This tiny thing?" Badger couldn't understand the alien's thoughts, but he didn't need to. The creature's posture, its position between him and Mira, its obvious predatory nature, told him everything he needed to know. This thing was a threat to his human. That made it his enemy. The Nethrix took a step forward, its 6 legs moving with fluid grace. "I have killed creatures from 47 worlds, little animal. I have faced beasts that could crush vehicles, monsters that breathed fire, predators that could think and plan. What makes you believe you can threaten me?" In response, Badger lowered his head and charged. The alien predator almost laughed. It had expected the small creature to show some intelligence, perhaps try to circle around or look for an escape route. Instead, it was attacking directly, without strategy or apparent thought. The Nethrix raised one massive clawed hand to swat the honey badger aside like an annoying pest. The impact should have killed Badger instantly. Instead, he twisted in midair, his loose skin allowing him to spin around the Nethrix's claws. His jaws clamped down on the alien's wrist with the force of a steel trap. His teeth, designed to crack the hardest nuts and tear through the toughest hide, found gaps between the creature's scales. The Nethrix screamed, a sound like tearing metal that echoed through the chamber. It tried to shake Badger off, but the honey badger's grip was unbreakable. More disturbing than the pain was the complete lack of fear from this small Earth animal. Every other creature the Nethrix had fought showed some recognition of its superior size and power. This one seemed to view the 10-foot alien as nothing more than an obstacle to remove. Black blood spurted from the wounds as Badger's teeth found something vital in the alien's wrist. The Nethrix tried to grab him with its other hand, but he released his grip and rolled away, already looking for his next target. His small dark eyes showed no satisfaction, no pause to savor his success. Just cold determination to continue the fight. Impossible, the Nethrix hissed, cradling its wounded limb. You should be dead. My claws are poisoned. One scratch should have killed you. Badger's metabolism was already processing the alien toxin, his liver and kidneys working overtime to neutralize substances that would have killed most Earth animals within seconds. He had evolved in a land of snakes and scorpions, of plants that could kill with a touch and insects whose stings brought madness. Alien poison was just another challenge to overcome. The Nethrix began to understand that it had made a serious error in judgment. This wasn't just another animal to be collected and killed. This was something that had evolved in a completely different way, following rules the alien predator didn't understand. It decided to use its most powerful weapon. The creature's four eyes began to glow brighter as it focused its telepathic abilities on Badger. It projected images of death and destruction, visions of pain beyond imagining. It showed the honey badger what would happen to Mira if he continued to fight. It filled his mind with every nightmare it had collected from 3 centuries of hunting. Badger felt the alien thoughts trying to burrow into his brain like worms. But honey badger minds were simple and direct, focused on immediate practical needs. Fear was a luxury he couldn't afford when his human was in danger. The terrifying images slid off his consciousness like water off stone. Instead of backing down, Badger attacked again. This time he went for the alien's legs, his powerful claws finding purchase on the scaled limbs. He climbed the Nethrix like a furry projectile, his teeth seeking the softer areas around joints and tendons. The alien tried to dislodge him, but fighting a honey badger was like fighting liquid fury. Every time it thought it had him, he was somewhere else biting something new. The Nethrix stumbled, one of its legs no longer working properly. Badger had severed something important, and alien blood was pooling on the chamber floor. The predator realized with growing panic that this small Earth creature was actually winning. Stop, it commanded, putting all its mental power behind the word. I will release your human. We can coexist. Badger paused for a moment, not because he understood the alien's offer, but because he was repositioning for his next attack. The Nethrix mistook this pause for consideration and pressed its advantage. I see now that Earth creatures are more formidable than I thought. Your species deserves respect. I will leave this world and hunt elsewhere. From her bonds, Mira watched the battle with amazement and terror. She had never seen Badger like this. At home, he was playful and gentle, content to follow her around and investigate interesting smells. Now he moved like a force of nature, relentless and unstoppable. This was what her parents meant when they talked about wild animals. This was what Badger really was beneath his domestic surface. The Nethrix was backing away now, trying to put distance between itself and the honey badger. It had fought creatures much larger than itself and won. But size meant nothing when your opponent felt no fear and wouldn't stop attacking no matter how much damage it took. Your wounds are severe, little warrior. The alien tried again. You are bleeding. Your strength will fail soon. Accept my offer while you still can. Badger was indeed bleeding from dozens of cuts and scratches. The alien's claws had found their mark several times and poison burned in his veins. But honey badgers had been designed by evolution to keep fighting long past the point where other animals would collapse. His adrenaline was still flowing. His muscles still responded to his will, and Mira was still in danger. He launched himself at the Nethrix's throat. The alien tried to dodge, but its wounded leg gave way. Badger's jaws closed around the creature's neck, just below its diamond arrangement of eyes. His teeth found the major arteries that fed the alien's brain. The Nethrix's mental screaming filled the chamber as its lifeblood began to drain away. The creature thrashed desperately, its remaining functional legs scratching gouges in the stone floor. It tried to roll over and crush Badger beneath its weight, but the honey badger's loose skin and compact build let him adjust his position without releasing his death grip. Please. The Nethrix's mental voice grew weaker. I am an apex predator. I have hunted for 3 centuries. This cannot be how I die. But honey badgers had never learned to show mercy to things that threatened their families. Badger held on as the alien's struggles grew weaker, as its mental voice faded to whispers, as its four eyes dimmed one by one. Only when the Nethrix lay completely still did he finally release his grip. The trophy chamber fell silent except for Mira's soft crying. Badger stood over the body of the alien predator, his fur matted with blood both black and red. He looked smaller than ever next to the massive corpse, but he had done what millions of years of evolution had designed him to do. He had protected his human from a threat, no matter the cost. Badger stood motionless for several seconds, his small body trembling from exhaustion and fading adrenaline. Blood dripped from his wounds onto the stone floor, mixing with the alien ichor that pooled around the Nethrix's corpse. But his dark eyes remained alert, scanning the chamber for any other threats to Mira. Finding none, he padded over to where she was trapped. The bioelectric bonds that held her pulsed with soft blue light, but they were designed to contain prey, not resist. The determined gnawing of a honey badger. Badger's teeth, still stained with alien blood, began working at the restraints. "Oh, Badger," Mira sobbed as the bonds finally parted and she could move her arms again. "I knew you would come. I knew you wouldn't leave me." The honey badger allowed her to wrap her arms around him, though his eyes never stopped moving, watching for danger. His wounds were serious, but not life-threatening. He had endured worse during his early years in the African wilderness. What mattered now was getting Mira back to safety. High above them, the colony's search teams had finally tracked the emergency beacon in Mira's clothing to the forest. The signal led them to a crack between two large rocks barely visible behind hanging vines. Chief Security Officer Williams stared at the narrow opening with disbelief. "She can't have gone down there," he muttered into his radio. "It's impossible. A child couldn't fit through that gap." But the beacon signal was definitely coming from deep underground. Williams ordered his team to widen the opening with cutting tools. As they worked, other searchers found disturbing signs around the area. Scratch marks on trees that were too high and too deep for any known local creature. Strange scorch marks on rocks, the lingering smell of something alien and predatory. Deep in the trophy chamber, Mira and Badger began their journey back to the surface. The honey badger led the way, his nose guiding them through the maze of tunnels. Behind them lay the remains of the Nethrix and its collection of trophies from 47 worlds. The alien predator's reign of terror was over, ended by 30 pounds of earth fury. The climb was exhausting for both of them. Mira's legs shook from her ordeal, and Badger moved more slowly than usual, favoring his wounded side. But they helped each other, the girl sometimes carrying her brave companion when his strength failed, the honey badger guiding her when the tunnels grew confusing. They were halfway to the surface when they heard voices echoing down from above. Human voices calling Mira's name. She began to cry again, but these were tears of relief and joy. "Here!" she shouted, her voice echoing through the stone passages. "We're down here!" Williams nearly fell into the tunnel system when he heard her response. Within minutes, his team had descended with ropes and emergency medical equipment. What they found in the depths challenged everything they thought they knew about the creatures sharing their new world. The trophy chamber was a scene from a nightmare. Bones and preserved specimens from dozens of alien species lined the walls, evidence of a predator that had been hunting across the galaxy for centuries. In the center lay the Nethrix's corpse, its throat torn open and its black blood coating the floor. Standing protectively beside Mira was Badger, the small honey badger they all knew as the colony's gentlest pet. His fur was matted with blood. His small body bore the wounds of a terrible battle, but his eyes still held the cold fire that had carried him through the aliens' defenses. "What happened down here?" Williams asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Mira hugged Badger closer to her chest. "The monster took me. It was going to kill me and put me on the wall with all the others. But Badger came and saved me. He killed it." The security team looked from the 8-year-old girl to the honey badger to the massive alien corpse. The story seemed impossible, but the evidence was right in front of them. Somehow, This small Earth animal had defeated a predator that could have terrorized their entire colony. Word of the incident spread through New Haven within hours. By the next day, it had reached other human colonies across the frontier. Within a week, the story was being transmitted to alien trade networks and diplomatic channels throughout the sector. The response was immediate and dramatic. Species that had never shown interest in Earth or its creatures began requesting detailed information about honey badgers. The Zephyrian Trade Council, known for their careful study of potential threats, issued a formal advisory about Earth combat fauna and their unprecedented psychological warfare capabilities. The report described how a creature weighing less than 15 kilograms had single-handedly destroyed an apex predator that had terrorized multiple star systems for centuries. More disturbing to many alien species was the complete absence of fear the honey badger had shown. Most creatures across the galaxy understood the concept of tactical retreat when faced with overwhelming odds. Earth animals, it seemed, had never learned this lesson. On the trading station orbiting Proxima Centauri, Ambassador Thek of the Hegemony Council called an emergency session to discuss the Earth situation. Representatives from 17 different species gathered to watch the security footage that Williams had transmitted along with his report. "This changes everything," declared the Altarian delegate, her crystalline form flickering with nervous energy. "We assumed humans were the primary threat from Earth. We never considered their companion species." The footage showed Badger's journey through the Nethrix's lair, his methodical destruction of each guardian creature, his fearless assault on a predator 10 times his size. What disturbed the assembled aliens most was not the honey badger's ferocity, but his complete emotional detachment from the violence. He killed without anger, without satisfaction, without any apparent feeling at all except determination to reach his human. "It's not just this one creature," observed the Kalani representative. "Our intelligence reports indicate that Earth has produced thousands of similar species, animals that evolved specifically to survive and kill in their natural environment." The IGER meeting lasted for hours as representatives shared their growing concerns about humanity's expansion into space. It wasn't just that humans brought weapons and technology with them. They brought entire ecosystems of creatures that had been shaped by millions of years of evolutionary warfare. Back on New Haven, Mira recovered from her ordeal with the resilience of childhood. The colony's medical team treated her minor injuries and provided counseling to help her process the traumatic experience. But she seemed more concerned about Badger's wounds than her own psychological state. The honey badger became a celebrity throughout the human colonies. Requests poured in from other settlements asking if they could purchase honey badgers for protection. Scientists wanted to study his unique physiology. Military commanders wanted to know if other Earth animals could be trained for combat roles. Dr. Lisa Chen, Mira's mother, and the colony's chief xenobiologist, found herself fielding hundreds of questions about honey badger biology and behavior. She tried to explain that Badger's actions weren't the result of training or genetic modification. He had simply done what millions of years of evolution had programmed him to do: protect his family from threats. "People don't understand," she told her research team during one of their daily briefings. "Honey badgers aren't naturally aggressive toward humans. They're aggressive toward everything that threatens what they care about. Badger didn't save Mira because we trained him to. He saved her because he loves her." The story took on mythic proportions as it spread through alien communication networks. The Nethrix had been known throughout the sector as an unstoppable force, a creature that collected the finest specimens from every world it visited. The idea that it had been killed by what humans considered a household pet shook many species' understanding of the galactic order. On the water world of Aquarius Prime, the amphibious tide runners held emergency sessions to discuss whether they should restrict human immigration to their system. The insectoid hive queens of the spiral arm began debating whether Earth animals represented a biological weapon that violated interstellar treaties. But the most significant response came from the Vorthon Empire, the galaxy's most militaristic species. Emperor Kravex himself issued a decree that any human settlement within Vorthon space must register all companion animals and provide detailed biological assessments. The decree specifically mentioned creatures of unusual tenacity and combat Effectiveness. 3 months after the incident, the first honey badger breeding program was established on the frontier colony of New Damascus. Within a year, there were waiting lists of human settlements requesting their own protection badgers. The animals were never trained for combat, but simply having them present seemed to deter the kind of predators that had previously threatened. Isolated colonies. Mira and Badger returned to their daily walks along the colony fence, though now they were always accompanied by security escorts. The honey badger seemed unchanged by his newfound fame. He still investigated interesting smells, still followed Mira around with devoted loyalty, still showed no fear of anything that might threaten his human. But sometimes when the wind carried strange scents from the deep forest, his small ears would perk up and his dark eyes would scan the tree line, with the same cold assessment he had shown the Nethrix. He had tasted alien blood now, had felt the satisfaction of protecting his family from extinction. If anything else threatened Mira, it would meet the same fate as the creature whose bones still lay deep underground. The galaxy was beginning to learn a lesson that Earth's predators had known for millions of years. Size and intelligence meant nothing when faced with something that simply refused to give up. Humans might be the most obvious threat from the blue planet, but they weren't traveling alone. They brought with them an entire world's worth of creatures that evolution had forged into living weapons. And the honey badger, compact and fearless and absolutely devoted to its human companions, was just the beginning. Earth had sharks and tigers, bears and wolves, poisonous spiders and venomous snakes. It had evolved creatures that could survive, in any environment, fight against any odds, and never ever surrender. The galaxy was about to discover what it truly meant to face Earth's fury unleashed.